The British people want a good deal that sets us on course for a brighter future. That deal is within our grasp, and I am determined to deliver it.
Scotland will be an independent nation.
How much more hope will be possible when we take Scotland's future into Scotland's hands and become an independent country. To be perfectly frank, I didn't glean very much. She was at pains to tell me she wanted to sit down with other parties and listen to different ideas, but I got the sense, very strong sense, of two things. Firstly, she doesn't seem to have any clear idea herself of what the next steps are. And secondly, it didn't seem to me as if she was prepared to abandon or move any of her red lines in order to open space for new ideas or new approaches to be brought forward. It sounded as if what she wanted to do was find a minor variation of her current deal, the one that was so overwhelmingly rejected last night, and that seems to me as if she's just trying to run down the clock, and that is unconscionable. We don't have any more time to waste, and as a minimum right now we need to be looking at the extension of Article 50. On the confidence vote, the SNP will vote for the motion of no confidence. If we could get rid of this government, we'd be delighted. I think it is likely to fail to pass this evening. The merit of having that vote, though, even if it doesn't carry, is that it takes away Jeremy Corbyn's excuses for sitting on the fence over the issue of a second referendum. So we might get some clarity from Labour at long last. 2.5 years have passed and the government has failed to come up with any workable Brexit plan. The idea that between now and the 29th of March, 72 days I think it is, they're going to find that way forward, the unicorn is going to appear out of nowhere, it's fanciful. And you know, it now becomes seriously negligent just to allow time to drift on. The Scottish Government and the SNP for 2.5 years have put forward a potential compromise of single market and customs union membership. That's been rejected by the government. It's hard to see now how we get from here to there, even if that was the objective, by the 29th of March. This thing is such a mess, and people voted in 2016 not knowing that every Brexit option would make us worse off. I think the only real option for the UK now is to put this back to the electorate in a second referendum. Scotland's got the option of independence, obviously, but for the UK as a whole, and I want to see the UK as a whole stay in the EU, it's in Scotland's interest even if we were independent. The only way forward, I think, is a second referendum.
The ayes to the right, 306. The noes to the left, 325.
The ayes to the right, 306. The noes to the left, 325. So the noes have it. The noes have it. Unlock! Point of order, the Prime Minister.
On a point of order, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that this House has expressed its confidence in the government tonight. I do not take this responsibility lightly, and my government will continue its work to increase our prosperity, guarantee our security, and to strengthen our union. And yes, we will also continue to work to deliver on the solemn promise we made to the people of this country to deliver on the result of the referendum and leave the European Union. I believe this duty is shared by every member of this House, and we have a responsibility to identify a way forward that can secure the backing of the House. To that end, I've proposed a series of meetings between senior parliamentarians and representatives of the government over the coming days, and I would like to invite the leaders of parliamentary parties to meet with me individually, and I would like to start these meetings tonight. Mr. Speaker, the government approaches these meetings in a constructive spirit, and I urge others to do the same. But we must find solutions that are negotiable and command sufficient support in this House. And, as I've said, we will return to the House on Monday to table an amendable motion and to make a statement about the way forward. The House has put its confidence in this government. I stand ready to work with any member of this House to deliver on Brexit and ensure that this House retains the confidence of the British people.
Agree, and of course it fits into the hostile environment that many in the government benches have prosecuted over the course of the years. We have an expression in Scotland, we're all Jock Tamson's bairns. Yeah. You know, Mr. Speaker, if I look at our history over the course of the last 100 years, our population in Scotland has barely grown. We've gone from 4.8 to 5.5 million people. We face a ticking time bomb, which is an ageing population. The last thing we need is to be cut off from that supply of labour for people that want to come and contribute to sustainable economic growth in Scotland. How are we to afford to be able to invest in our public services if we cannot generate economic growth? Because that's what leaving Europe is going to do to us. It's going to restrain our ability to deliver growth, our ability to make sure that we can look after the vulnerable in our society. Mr. Speaker, this is the defining moment in the Brexit process, defining moments for the future of relationships. Members of Parliament must recognise their responsibility, and for many, I know that this demands making difficult decisions. I would say to each and every Member of Parliament, the primary responsibility that you have is not to party. The primary responsibility that you have is to your constituents. Think about the risks that are taking place as a consequence of this deal. It is the height of irresponsibility for the government to suggest that this is a binary choice. Mr. Speaker, in the SNP's amendment that we have laid today, we have given the opportunity for the House to support that we extend Article 50. Extend Article 50 and give the people of the United Kingdom the choice to make that determination. On the basis of the facts, on the basis of the knowledge as to what Brexit is going to do, it is only right and proper, in a democratic principle, that we allow the people of the United Kingdom to make that choice. And I appeal to members across the House. Now, we have in the SNP many friends across this place and many friends on the benches to my right. I'm appealing to the Labour Party. For goodness sake, get off the fence. Get off the fence. Because the young people that voted for Labour in England in 2017 will never forgive the Leader of the Opposition and his colleagues unless they recognise that this is the opportunity to unite this House, to vote down the government's deal, support a people's vote, allow the people to have their say on what they want. Will you do it? I can see the Honourable Chuntering, if he wishes to intervene and accept his responsibilities for once. Well, you can blow a kiss, but what you're doing is you're blowing a raspberry to the people of the United Kingdom. That's the reality, and it really is about time. If you're serious about politics, if you're serious about responsibility, then grow up. Grow up and accept responsibility, and don't dodge this. Don't dodge this. You know, it's little wonder that when we look at Scotland, that the people of Scotland have got a choice. And the Scottish National Party have been in government in Scotland since 2007. Well, I can hear people saying too long. But the fact of the matter is that we've won 3 elections on the trot to the Scottish Parliament, and we've won the last 2 elections to Westminster. And the party that's sitting in 3rd place in Scotland is the Labour Party. And the reason that the Labour Party are sitting in 3rd place in Scotland is because they're out of touch and out of step with the people of Scotland.
I was absolutely. It comes as no surprise that when challenged by the leader of the SNP, nobody got up to defend the position of the Labour Party. Nobody. And what that tells us is that, does my honourable friend not agree with me? There is no such thing as a jobs-first Brexit. It's a myth.
I'm grateful for my honourable friend for that intervention, because he's absolutely right. And that's why I'm appealing to every member in this House to think about the people. Think about the people that have already lost their jobs. Think about the 1,000 people in the European Medicines Agency. Think about the 1,000 people in the European Banking Authority. Think about those at Jaguar Land Rover, and the workers at Jaguar Land Rover know that the Labour Party today are not going to lift a finger to protect their economic interests. That's the reality. A party that was once of the people that is just sitting back and failing to accept the responsibilities. Well, thank goodness, Mr. Speaker, in Scotland that we have an alternative, and the people of Scotland have watched everything which has gone on over the course of the last 2.5 years. Taking back control, they say. Well, my goodness, they've taken back control from the Parliament of Scotland. When this House pushed through the Withdrawal Act, what happened was, with responsibility over fisheries, over agriculture, over the environment, which were down in the Scotland Act when the Parliament was established, as matters which have devolved, supposed to be protected by the Sewell Convention. But of course, the government said, well, these are not normal times, and they grabbed powers, not so much against the Scottish Government and the Scottish Parliament, but grabbed powers against the people of Scotland that had voted for it in a referendum in 1997. That's the reality of the Conservatives that have always been hostile to devolution. Now, of course, we're told, well, the people voted in 2016 and we should accept it. But, of course, the people of Scotland were told in our referendum in 2014, if we stayed in the United Kingdom, our rights within the EU would be respected. Absolutely. The fact that the people of Scotland voted by 62% to stay in the European Union is ignored by this government. The fact that the Scottish Parliament has said that we wish to stay as a very minimum in the single market and the customs union has been ignored by this government. Contempt for the institutions in Scotland, contempt for the cross-party unity that existed on these matters in Scotland. Mr. Speaker, the time is coming where the people of Scotland are going to have to reflect on how we are being treated, on how we are being ignored. The Scottish Parliament has a mandate for an independence referendum. And if and when the First Minister and the Scottish Government chooses to enforce that mandate, this House must respect the wishes of the Scottish people. I hope tonight that this House votes down the government's deal. I hope this House has the confidence to extend Article 50, to give the responsibility back to the people. But if this House is determined to push ahead with Brexit, the day when the people of Scotland will have to determine their own future, do we wish to be trailed to a United Kingdom that's going to damage our economic interests, or will we accept our responsibilities as a historic, independent European nation? Mr. Speaker, that day is coming, and it's coming soon.
And since we appear in a political twilight zone in this place, I feel the need to say a few home truths. I have never had confidence in this government whatsoever, whether that be Brexit, whether that be social security, whether that be immigration and whether that be pensions. I have no confidence in them, and I can't believe that anyone does have confidence. I have no confidence in the Prime Minister, because this is a Prime Minister who knew what the outcome of this vote on her deal would be, so much so that she delayed it and then came back and acted like it was a surprise that it failed. All that happened is she wasted a month, and she did this in the full knowledge that time is running out. Now, regrettably, I actually have to say the same about the Leader of the Opposition, and I do say this sincerely. I can't get my head around how the Right Honourable Member has delayed calling for a vote of no confidence. He delayed it in the initial farce. He failed to support the vote of no confidence from SNP and other parties. And I find myself being left asking the same question. What good did it do? Because all that's happened is this lot have had another month in power. And I find myself questioning his logic of I'm waiting for the perfect moment, the opportune moment. Because I think we'll find at the end of this debate that moment has actually passed. Now, I sincerely hope that the Right Honourable Member, the Right Honourable Member and Leader of the Opposition will eventually come clean about whether he thinks this should be taken back to the people or not. Because this deadlock evasiveness cannot last. It cannot continue. People deserve better. And to be honest, we all deserve a better opposition. The only thing that I have any confidence in, quite frankly, Mr. Speaker, is the people of Scotland. The wealth of talent, the wealth of intellect, the wealth of compassion that we have to offer the world. And I have no doubt that people in Scotland will be watching this entire farce back home and finding themselves reaching the conclusion that the only thing they can have confidence in is the ability of our country to look after ourselves a damn sight better than this place ever has. And if the government and the Prime Minister is truly meaning that she wants to reach out and cross-party support, then a good start would be listening to the will of the second largest nation in this United Kingdom and giving us the respect that we are due.
Well, this is a defeat of literally historic proportions for the Prime Minister, and she has seen it coming for months and has just wasted time. We can't waste time any longer. First of all, I believe now is the time to stop the Article 50 clock, to take away any risk of the UK crashing out of the EU without a deal on the 29th of March. And secondly, legislation should be brought forward to take this issue back to the electorate. Parliament has had 2.5 years, and the Government and Parliament has failed to deliver a coherent, workable Brexit deal. It's time to put this back to the people in another referendum. Well, the sooner the Prime Minister asks the EU to agree to an extension of Article 50, the sooner we know the answer to that question. And I think it's reasonable, if there is a plan, to request and get agreement to an extension. And the plan has to be to put it back to the electorate. Parliament's not suddenly going to manage to solve the conundrum that it's failed to solve in the last 2.5 years. People now, I think, have a right to be asked again, with everything we now know, which people didn't know in 2016 when this vote happened for the first time, do people still want to leave the European Union, knowing that every option for Brexit will make the country poorer than staying in the EU, destroy living standards and prospects for future generations? That's the only thing that makes sense now. What cannot be allowed to happen is that the Prime Minister carries on as if nothing has changed. Listening to her after the vote in the House of Commons, it was almost delusional that things would just carry on as before. The clock is ticking, and it is absolutely imperative to stop that clock, to avoid disaster and then move forward in a sensible way.
shaping tradition, this is one of the last places in Scotland still making bagpipes by hand. Shaping their future, most Scots voted Remain. Could Brexit fall over? Might they get what they wanted?
Anything is possible, and to the fact that we could just end up forgetting about it and Remain anyway, you know. Come full circle again, I think.
Edinburgh chose a different tune to the rest of the UK, with a 74% vote in favour of Remain. This very much an outward-looking international city. Some here now argue that for all voters, Brexit must be revisited.
We need to have a people's vote, a second European referendum, now that people are clear about what Brexit actually means, because I don't think that when they voted 2.5 years ago, they were properly informed about the consequences.
Each night this month, an art project beams what are described as love letters to Europe onto the city's buildings. What then of the relationship Scotland has with its UK neighbour across the border?
I suppose Brexit as an issue has just thrown up another area of political disagreement between Scotland and England. That England at the moment seems, sort of to be kind of 50-50 split on whether it wants a European future. Scotland is pretty certain that it does want a European future.
Kilt makers know all about different clans. At this Edinburgh firm, they think it's time for unity.
It's infighting, it's backbiting, and we should, at this stage, have some kind of cross-party agreement where we go to Europe and say, as the main parties, this is what we would want, this is what we would like.
When it comes to selling Brexit, there's clearly no one-size-fits-all.
All right, Rob, collaborate. And this Brexit is back with the brand new position. No deal is the latest sensation. Because I made a mess of these negotiations. Should we be worried? I don't know, but I'm stockpiling food like there is no tomorrow. The DUP control a new world order. Why can't the EU? There won't be a hard border. Deadly at the negotiating table. Most definitely not. Weak and unstable. The Chequers plan was my last resort. But take reassurance from the blue and gold passport. People should listen to the message that I send them. No deal is better than a second referendum. Single market access. We can't solve it. Immigration, no, we can finally control it. No deal. Brexit.
Scotland will be an independent nation.
How much more hope will be possible when we take Scotland's future into Scotland's hands and become an independent country?
Well, I grew up in a Scotland where the decisions about our future are taken by the people who care most about Scotland, the people who live here.
Night in London, a foreign cigarette and dial tone. My arms need to hold you now in person, instead of longing, holding on the phone. I was wrong to ever think of leaving. Now I know this pain I can't survive. Went so far away, but it was self-deceiving. Take me back make me feel alive.